U.S. President John F. Kennedy went on national television October 22, 1962, after U.S. spy planes flying over Cuba discovered nuclear missile sites under construction on the island.
To halt this offensive buildup, a strict quarantine on all offensive military equipment under shipment to Cuba is being initiated.
The Cuban Missile Crisis brought the world to the brink of nuclear war. The significance of the historic event was addressed in a recent online panel of Cuban and U.S. experts who recalled that Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev proposed Fidel Castro to deploy ballistic missiles in Cuba to counter a possible U.S. invasion, which triggered the conflict.
The response by Cuba, by Fidel Castro, was that we did not need missiles to defend ourselves. But if the missile deployment aimed to even the balance of forces between the socialist camp and the USA, Cuba was willing to pay the price.
But the worst did not happen, as Moscow and Washington reached a deal. The Soviet missiles would be withdrawn from Cuba, as would U.S. nukes from Turkey. The panelists recall that 60 years later, the world is threatened by more than 13,000 warheads spread across the globe. Peter Kornblue with the U.S. National Security Archive cited recent statements by U.S. President Joe Biden on the Ukraine-Russia conflict.
For the first time since the Cuban Missile Crisis, we have a direct threat of the use of a nuclear weapon if things continue down the path they are going, he said.
Panelists said today's leaders should reconsider the lessons learned more than 6 decades ago.
There's a world trend of not learning from the past, and this is the result of the conflict and events in Ukraine.
The U.S. is the second biggest nuclear superpower with some 5,500 warheads. Russia has more than 6,200. Just last month, Cuba celebrated International Day for the total elimination of nuclear weapons. The government advocated the universal ratification of the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, stressing that nothing justifies such a threat to humanity. Luis Chirino, CGTN, Havana.